Hello students, welcome to English class. Today we are going to read 5th chapter of Honeydew, NCERT English book of 8th standard. Today we are going to read 5th chapter, that is The Summit Within. The Summit Within is a story of experiences of Major HPS Ahluwalia, who was a member of the first successful Indian expedition to Mount Everest in 1965. According to him, a climb to a summit means the demonstration of climbers' endurance, persistence, and willpower. Since childhood, the narrator has been attracted by mountains. In this lesson, he tells us how he felt as he stood on the Everest. So let's start the story in his own words. Of all the emotions which surged through me as I stood on the summit of Everest, looking over miles of panorama below us, the dominant one, I think, was humility. The physical in me seemed to say, "Thank God, it's all over." However, instead of being jubilant, there was a tinge of sadness. Was it because I had already done the ultimate in climbing and there would be nothing higher to climb, and all roads hereafter would lead down? The narrator or the author is standing on the Everest and felt very humble. He was felt of humility when he reached the summit of Everest. Here the panorama means view of a wide area. He was very tired. Physically, he was very tired. Instead of being very happy, he was jubilant and sad. He has both feelings, jubilant and sad at the same time together. Jubilant means very happy because of success. And he was success on the reaching of summit of the Everest. So he has the both feelings, jubilant and sad together. He was not sure of the reason of that both feelings. He wondered if this sadness was become now there was no other higher peak to climb. That's why he was jubilant and sad. Sad for that there was no other highest peak to climb. Further he tells, by climbing the summit of Everest, you are overwhelmed by a deep sense of joy and thankfulness. It is joy which lasts a lifetime. The experience changes you completely. The man who has been to the mountains is never the same again. Ahluwalia says that after climbing Everest, he felt a deep sense of joy. This joy was to last the rest of his life. He also felt thankful to God. He thanked God for his physical success. It was the highest of the goals for him. Further he tells, as I look back at life after climbing Everest, I cannot help remarking about the other summit, the summit of mind. No less formidable and no easier to climb. Ahluwalia had climbed a summit, but he thought of another summit, that was the summit of mind. Even when getting down from the summit, once the physical exhaustion had gone, I began asking myself the question why I had climbed Everest. Why did the act of reaching the summit have such a hold on my imagination? It was already a thing of the past, something done yesterday. With every passing day, it would become more remote. And then, what would remain? Would my memories fade slowly away? While coming down from the summit, he asked himself why he climbed Everest, why he chose climb to Everest, and what urged him to do that, and whether his memory would fade slowly away. That he was thinking and asking the question himself. Although all these thoughts led me a question myself as to why people climb mountains. It is not easy to answer the question. The simplest answer would be, as others have said, because it is there. It presents great difficulties. Man takes delight in overcoming obstacles. The obstacles in climbing a mountain are physical. A climb to a summit means endurance, persistence, and willpower. The demonstration of these physical qualities is no doubt exhilarating, as it was for me also. He came to the conclusion that in order to climb summit, a person needed 3 qualities. These qualities are endurance, persistence, and willpower. It is only with the help of these qualities that a man overcomes obstacles. Obstacles means hurdles, difficulties. The climbing of a summit is thus a demonstration of these 3 qualities. That is why men take delight in overcoming physical obstacles. Further, he tells, I have more personal answer to the question. That question, why he chose Everest, why he wanted to climb the Everest. That question, he is telling, I have more personal answer to the question. From my childhood, I have been attracted by mountains. I had been miserable, lost when away from mountains. In the plains, mountains are nature at its best. Their beauty and majesty pose a great challenge. And like many, I believe that mountains are a means of communion with God. Once having granted this, the question remains, why Everest? Because it is highest, the mightiest, and has defied many previous attempts. It takes the last ounce of one's energy. It is a brutal struggle with rock and ice. Once taken up, it cannot be given up halfway, even when one's life is at stake. The passage back is as difficult as the passage onwards. And then, when the summit is climbed, there is the exhilaration, the joy of having done something, the sense of a battle fought and won. There is a feeling of victory and of happiness. Author says here that a question arises why he chose to climb Everest, only Everest. Why? He says that the first reason is that he has always loved mountains. The mountains have been a matter of attraction for the narrator since his childhood. For him, nature is at its best. In the case of mountain, they have a challenging beauty and majesty. They are a means of communion of God. Everest is the highest and the mightiest and has defied many previous attempts. It is a great struggle against rock and ice. So, after climbing this summit, there is a joy of having done something which only a few can do. One has the sense of victory and of happiness. Further he tells, glimpsing a peak in the distance, I get transported to another world. I experience a change within myself, which can only be called mystical. by its beauty, aloofness, might, ruggedness, and the difficulties encountered on the way. The peak draws me to it, as Everest did. It is a challenge that is difficult to resist. Looking back, I find that I have not yet fully explained why I climbed Everest. It is like answering a question: why you breathe? Why do you help your neighbor? Why do you want to do good acts? There is no final answer possible. And then there's the fact that Everest is not just a physical climb. The man who has been to the mountain top becomes conscious in a special manner of his own smallness in this large universe. So here, the author is saying, looking at the peak from distance, Ahluwalia is transported to another world. He has a mystical feeling. The view brings a mystical change in the narrator's mind. Mystical change. It poses a challenge before him, which was difficult to resist. Resist means stop. He says, in fact, the difficulties of climbing Everest are huge, but this is what attracts him it too. The difficulties attracts him. It is a challenge. He likes challenge. Challenge that he finds difficult to resist. Ahluwalia says that the call to face the challenge of overcoming the obstacles was irresistible. He likes challenges. The physical conquest of a mountain is only one part of the achievement. There is more to it than that. It is followed by a sense of fulfillment. There is the satisfaction of a deep urge to rise above one's surroundings. It is the eternal love for adventure in man. The experience is not merely physical, it is emotional, it is spiritual. He tells that one feels connected with the supernatural element on reaching the summit. Author says climbing Everest is not just a physical achievement or conquest. It brings fulfillment and fame. It is the fruit of courage, confidence, and determination to overcome, gave them fame and acclamation. The experience is emotional and spiritual also. The climb of Everest is not just a physical climb. It provides physical, emotional, and spiritual fulfillment. Further, author tells, consider a typical climb towards the summit on the last heights. You are sharing a rope with another climber. You firm in. He cuts the steps in the hard ice. Then he belays. And you inch your way up. The climb is grim. You strain every nerve as you take away every step. Famous climbers have left record of the help given by others. They have also recorded how they needed just that help. Else, they might have given up. Breathing is difficult. You curse yourself for having let yourself in for this. You wonder why you ever undertook the ascent. Ascent means climb. Why you undertook the ascent or climb. There are moments when you feel like going back. It would be sheer relief to go down instead of up. But almost at once you snap out of that mood. There is a something in you that does not let you give up. The struggle. And you go on. Your companion keeps up with you just another 50 feet or 100 maybe. You ask yourself, is there no end? You look at your companion and he looks at you. You draw inspiration from each other. And then, without first being aware of it, you are at the summit. Author is saying here, climbing mountains also gives us a lesson in comradeship, means being together. He gives an example. Climbing a mountain is a highly risky job and needs others' help also. While climbing, two persons have to share a rope. One climber holds the rope firmly, while the other climber cuts the steps in the hard ice. Then he belays means fix a rope. He fixes a rope and the other climber inches his way up. The fellow climbers prove to be a source of inspiration. They remember their gods to feel confidence. Famous climbers have left records of the help given by others. But a single man cannot simply think of being a climber. It's not only the physical difficulties which will deter him. Deter means stop, which will stop him. The difficulties are emotional also. In all those moments, the comrades draw inspiration from each other. Looking round from the summit, you tell yourself that it was worthwhile. Other silvery peaks appear through the clouds. If you are lucky, the sun may be on them. The surrounding peaks look like a jeweled necklace around the neck of your summit. Below, you see vast valleys sloping into the distance. It is an ennobling and enriching experience to just look down from the summit of a mountain. You bow down and make your obeisance to whichever god you worship. I left on Everest a picture of Guru Nanak. Rawat left a picture of goddess Durga. Fudorji left a relic of Buddha. Edmund Hillary had buried a cross under a cairn in the snow. Cairn means a heap of rocks and stones. These are not symbols of conquest but reverence. This experience of having climbed to the summit changes you completely. Looking down from Everest, the climber feels that the effort was worthwhile. It is an ennobling experience. What he had done for reaching the summit, that efforts are worthwhile. The climber bows down to the god. Here, Ahluwalia left on Everest a picture of Guru Nanak. Rawat left a picture of goddess Durga. Fudorji left a relic of Buddha. And Edmund Hillary had buried a cross under a heap of rocks and stones. These are the symbols of not of conquest, but of reverence. Reverence means deep respect. These were the symbols of deep respect. So the experience of being on the Everest changes a man completely. Further he tells, there is another summit. It is within yourself. It is in your own mind. Each man carries within himself his own mountain peak. He must climb it to reach to a fuller knowledge of himself. It is fearful and unescalable. It cannot be climbed by anyone else. You yourself have to do it. The physical act of climbing to the summit of a mountain outside is akin to the act of climbing the mountain within. The effects of both the climbs are the same. The effects of both the climbs are same, whether the mountain you climb is physical or emotional and spiritual. The climb will certainly change you. It teaches you much about the world and about yourself. Here, the author says, each man has within him his own mountain peak. It is far more difficult to climb the summit within oneself than to climb the summit of mountain. It is difficult to climb the summit within oneself than to climb the summit of a mountain. One can get a fuller knowledge of oneself merely by climbing one's personal and internal mountain peak. It is fearful and unescalable too, like the climb to the summit of a mountain. Yet, no one else but the man has to do itself. Climbing this inside peak is like climbing Everest too. Akin means similar. The effects are the same. Both the climbs change you, and both the climbs would equally teach one much about the world and about oneself. Further he tells, I venture to think that my experience as an Everester has provided me with the inspiration to face life's ordeals. Ordeals means painful experiences. Resolutely. Climbing the mountain was a worthwhile experience. The conquest of the internal summit is equally worthwhile. The internal summits are perhaps higher than Everest. Here he is telling that the internal summit is perhaps higher than Everest. So, it was the chapter about experiences of HPS Ahluwalia, about his expedition to Mount Everest and his lesson or his views about the life which he learned from this expedition. So students, I hope you understood. Thank you. Have a nice time.